here for my presentation. That's all right. We are going to film it, so we'll put it up on the website because a number of people said they wanted to be here, couldn't be here tonight. So we'll be up there. If you talk to anybody and they're curious about what it was all about or whatever, you can certainly point them in that direction. Did everybody get a sheet here? Chuck won't share with you?
Well, she will.
I want to share with him, but then he wouldn't share back.
There you are.
Marion,
More there too.
there's some in the hall saying he needs you. This is about a 10. 12.
I'm Mary.
This is Jack.
It's Mary. She was a pistol.
All right. What I wanted to talk with you all about tonight is a ministry that I've been thinking about, as I've mentioned, for a long time. It's one that I haven't seen. I know other people do it in other places, I'm sure, but I've never been around it or seen how it would or wouldn't work. So this is all kind of, I'm making this up as we go. But the idea here, I'm calling it AD groups. That's short for accountability and discipleship groups. Okay? And those two words should tell you a lot about what I have in mind here. One of the things that I believe wholeheartedly about churches is that they work best when church members, the people, not the clergy, but the church members engage with one another to grow in their faith. Okay? Now that's certainly I hopefully have some part in that in some ways and places, but I can't be everywhere all the time in all the places that you all are and need to be. So the idea of these groups is that they would be broken down into groups anywhere from 4 to 6 or 7 people, something like that. Meet every 2 to 4 weeks, whatever your group would decide. And you would do just what I said, accountability and discipleship. So the idea with the accountability part is simply that you will have some things that you're committing to doing. We call it a rule of life, and there'll be a class on June 9th on the morning for a couple hours. It's a Tuesday morning for people who are interested in getting started. And at that time we'll do this rule of life things and some of this. But a rule of life is simply saying, I'm going to commit to praying once a week. It can be that simple. Or I'm going to commit to praying 3 times a day and reading the scriptures once a day. Or I'm going to commit to X, Y, and Z. And there's all kinds of things there that you could commit to. Okay? And so part of the accountability portion of these groups would be that you come together and you're checking in with one another. You say, how are you doing with your rule of life? Okay? So this is a way of us holding one another to a standard. And it's a standard you set for yourself. It's not somebody else isn't setting it for you. But it's a way for us to track how we're doing. I don't know about you all, but all too often I've found with my own spiritual lives that I can many times start out with something and have good intentions and want to do something and set goals, and slowly but surely things fade away, other things get in its place, and I look back all of a sudden in 3 months I realize I haven't done anything. Okay, I set this goal 6 months ago, and for 3 months I did really well, and then it kind of slowed down, and now all of a sudden it's been a month since I've done anything at all. That's what these groups are about. It's helping to encourage one another. Just remain active, to remain engaged in our faith. Now, obviously, my hope for these groups is that they will also become a point of connection for you, a place where you will grow closer to one another, where you will find it a place that you can go and say, you know what? I'm really struggling right now. I'm having a hard time with X, Y, and Z. Or go and say, you know, Laura is driving me absolutely nuts. Or I'm driving Laura absolutely nuts, and I don't know what to do, but you get the point. It's not a support group in the kind of secular sense of it. It will be pointed towards our faith, but certainly support is always a part of that. Support and encouragement. These groups are meant to be a positive thing. So even like with the rule of life cards that I was talking about, where you make those commitments, this isn't a contest. It's not who can check the most boxes and do the most things and keep it. That's not the point at all. The point is that we each challenge ourselves in a way that we're comfortable with and that we can actually accomplish. That's the point of this. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. You all have things that you're already doing that you know you're doing, and a lot of things you don't know you're doing that are really strong. And you all have those places in your lives where you know that there are gaps and holes and weaknesses and places where you seem to always struggle and have for as long as you can remember. These groups are about addressing some of those. Okay? Now the discipleship portion of this is, that was the accountability. Discipleship portion is similar, but not quite the same. Discipleship will come in the form of praying for one another. That's an important piece of these groups. Really commit to praying for one another. Discipleship will come in the form of the studying and discussion that you'll do as the group. It will come in the form of reaching out to one another. And it will come, as importantly, in the form of your faith being strengthened, and therefore you're more eager, more willing, more ready to be a disciple in the world. Okay? So the idea with these groups, if you look there, I'm not going to read through the top part, but the bottom part, this gives you kind of a rough idea of my thoughts about this. It said that most of the groups, my plan, my intention would be that most of the groups would be all men or all women. And I say that simply because most of us, I feel like, as I talk to you all and I look at my own lives and the lives of my friends and things, most of us need that. Now, some of you may already get plenty of that. Maybe you need to be in a group with your spouse or partner or a special person in your life. And for those people, we will make some groups that are mixed. But my intent would be, if you're comfortable and willing, that they be men's and women's groups. Okay. Each member of the group is going to make some commitments. One of which is to meet regularly. Okay? You make a commitment to the group to come and be a part of it. That's pretty straightforward. The most basic part of being in the group is to show up, right? There'll be a set of norms. And these are really important. And as you grow in the group and you grow in your comfort level and your trust, these will become more and more apparent and important. But some of them, and I would encourage each group as we move along here to add to this list, but these are just the ones that I had that I would kind of insist on. First one was confidentiality. That's obviously a must. We don't talk about what happens in the group outside of the group. Okay? You have to have that level of trust. And and I hope no one comes to the group and says, I just murdered 5 people and I really need to get it off my chest. That's not, at least not right out of the gate anyway. That's not what you should send that person to me. Right?
You don't want to be.
But there does need to be a level of confidentiality and trust, even to just say, you know what, I know I should be praying every day, but I just don't, and I'm really struggling with it. Or I should be doing X, Y, and Z, or I shouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm really having a hard time. That in and of itself requires trust and confidentiality. So as the group grows, the importance of this will grow. That's kind of the first and in many ways the most important norm. Prayer. Prayer is the second norm I had there. If you're going to be a member of a group, you're going to commit to praying for that group, praying for the people in that group, praying for our church, our parish, praying for our community. Okay? That's a part of the commitment that you'll make if you're going to be in a group. Respect. I shouldn't have to say too much about that, but there's no expectation here that everyone's going to agree or have the same opinion on things. That's not what this is about. This is about providing a space where people can express their ideas and can be listened to and heard in a respectful way. That's all I'm talking about. Doesn't mean that you all have to agree. It means you have to be willing to engage the other person where they are. Be on time and stay focused. This group, and I said this up in the top and I'll say it over and over again as we move forward with these groups are not social clubs. This is not the point of this. Most of you, maybe not all, but most of you have ample opportunities for kind of surfacey socialization. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but you know what I'm saying. Most of us have plenty of outlets for that. This is not what this group is about. This group has a goal, and they have tasks, and we're going to work towards those things. So staying focused on the program, on what we're supposed to be doing is going to be important. And that's one of the things as we go forward with this. I'm hoping that some of you all will be excited about this, and I'm going to get facilitators in each group. And the facilitator's job for each group is really just to organize the group, make sure everybody knows when we're meeting and so forth. But their job will also be as kind of sergeant at arms, if you will, to me, say, oh, let's pull it back here. We're getting a little. The ball game has nothing to do with your faith life or whatever the case might be. So staying focused. These groups, I intend. Each group will figure out what works for them, but we're looking at an hour and a half here of focused time to really talk about what's going on, to pray for one another, to encourage one another. So there'll be a kind of a set pattern here. The next norm I had is honesty. If you're going to be a part of these groups, you need to be honest, or you're probably not going to get a whole lot out of it. It doesn't do me any good to show up to one of these groups and say, well, really, I'm pretty much perfect, so I'm really here for your all's benefit, right? Even if it's true, or I'm certainly a lot better than the rest of you. You get the point. If you're going to show up ready to be honest. To be honest with yourself, to be honest with one another. Okay? The last one that I had in here, it's similar to what I've already been talking about, is a commitment to depth. What I mean by that is that these groups are intended to not live on the surface. Okay? A commitment to depth, having in-depth, vital conversations about your spiritual lives. That's what this is about. Okay? So what I'm asking you all to engage in here is, for many of you, myself included, a new and different way of living out your faith in a very intentional way. Okay? Being very intentional with another group of believers about my spiritual life and about my growth. Now, for a lot of you who are sitting here, I suspect you're feeling a little uncomfortable just with this conversation. Just the idea of one of these groups is probably a little bit, I don't know about that, Wes. What I'm going to encourage you and everybody else is to try. If it doesn't work for you, nobody's going to show up at your door and ridicule you for dropping out, okay? Try it. Try it. My experience of things like this, and like I said, I've never done something like this in a parish, but I've had some things similar with clergy or at other things. My experience of things like this is that when it works extremely well. For everyone. You don't have to have this big ominous thing in your life, this huge sin that you can't get. You don't have to have something like that eating a hole at you to get a tremendous amount out of this group. And just because maybe you don't need this group this month doesn't mean in a month from now you won't need it. So I'd encourage you to try, to get involved, and to figure out, okay, maybe this isn't something I'm comfortable with doing every day, but for this group and this group of people every couple of weeks or whatever, I can do this. This is going to work for me. Okay? So my hope is that everyone will give it a shot and see how it works. And when I hear from people, one of the things that I'm going to ask is that people will kind of start letting me know, are you interested in this? And if you're interested, then I'm going to start trying to figure out groups. And some of that will be by location, some of it will be by, some of it will be affinity, you know. Those of you who are already in a relationship, you know, some of you might be put together. But I'll try to figure all that out once I see who's interested and what kind of group, you know, are you wanting all men, all women group, whatever. So when you let me know, we'll start trying to figure that out. Just in general, I said that the meetings would have kind of a focus or an agenda, if you will. And I've laid that out at the bottom. It's pretty tough to make him cry. You doing something? Yes. Kind of the general way that the meeting will run is that it'll open with prayer and some sort of study. And that could be as simple as a passage of scripture. It could be something you've read that is really meaningful. It could be a lot of different things, and we'll work that out as